Saturday brought a Put People First march in which charity supporters, churchgoers, concerned citizens and Carol of Big Brother 8 demanded an end to all unpleasantness. The news networks covered this patiently.
This passed off peacefully, but never mind, everyone knew Wednesday was going to be the real flashpoint.
Come Financial Fool's Day itself, the rolling news stations leapt into action, prepared to cover every aspect of the demonstrations. Windows were boarded up in preparation, the news media assembled, the horsemen of the apocalypse cantered into view, and the violence began. Not.
In fact, it all seemed rather cheerful for a while. It was all a bit Glastonbury.
Adding to the epic festival vibe, Sky News cracked out the Skycopter, which hovered around all day, zooming in on anything that looked vaguely troublesome, a bit like a gorilla picking through a mate's fur for uppity lice.
But why stop with commanding the air when you can also throw live to the Sky Boat? Not the riverboat, no, the Sky Boat, which is like a riverboat, but with a rather lost-looking poor sod standing in the middle of it.
And you can probably see the first of what looks like banners from the protesters. That, of course, the south end of the bridge. We're right in the middle of the river.
Wow, what a vantage point that's not.
They also had Ian Woods on the ground in his Sky shoes. He was moving through the crowd a bit like an uptight businessman character wandering through a psychedelic party in a happening 60s movie. A movie complete with unexpected celebrity cameos. Hang on, wait a minute, is that, it's what's the
brand.
That's it.
Protests.
Yes, the nation's favourite bearded lexicographer and sex machine had arrived and was already scanning his surroundings for fresh granddaughters to fuck.
Russell, you're live on Sky News at the moment. Can you just explain why you've come here today? Which issue angers you?
I ain't angry.
Oh, aren't you? Okay. Tell us about your dinkle.
So why come?
I live here.
Well, I thought you lived in Pondland. By now the crowds were building and the air began to turn. One of Sky's correspondents got so excited he ejaculated while on the phone to Dermot Murnahan.
Alistair Bundle there somewhere within that crowd. He was just telling us his come.
Shortly afterwards, Tony Benn, who was about to go on an anti-war march to Trafalgar Square, offered Dermot a little editorial advice.
The coverage of this, if I may make a suggestion to you, would be to try to cover some of the speeches made today. Otherwise, if it's just described as demonstrations, scuffles, police, traffic, no one outside will really know what it's really about.
Yeah, whatever, Tony, he's kicking off down the road.
Yeah, a little later, things started looking a touch more feisty, although some of the assembled pundits initially seemed to find it all rather comical.
And here we are with scenes which, by and large, are more reminiscent of carry-on camping.
Around this point, a bit of genuine ugliness occurred.
Sky captured a sort of ninja protester hitting police with a pole, and another man who appeared to receive a blow to the head. Bleeding from a wound, he moved forward to repeatedly shout at the police.
There's a young man quite clearly goading the police. Ali's getting very worked up indeed.
Shouty McHead Wound Man was destined to become the first iconic image of the protest.
This seems to be the ringleader at the moment, very keen to get to the front.
Clearly this wasn't very nice, but even while this was going on, just a short distance away, things were so relaxed, Sky's Ian Woods was looking downright bored. Although maybe things had calmed down because the police had deployed a giant.
Meanwhile, on the BBC, there was a chance to see a small group of people possessed by demons and take a look at some exciting anti-establishment graffiti.
Now, if you just take a quick look behind me on the walls of the Bank of England, I think you can probably see where protesters have been scrawling graffiti, slogans like money is for losers and property is theft.
Don't stop the bullshit. Go back, it said stop the bullshit. Go on, read it out.
A bit later after that, a few headstrong protesters, who the police had kettled in near an undefended branch of the Royal Bank of Scotland, started smashing windows.
Predictably, this became the second iconic image of the protests. It was certainly captured on enough cameras. Honestly, with all the lenses swarming around, you'd have thought Paris Hilton's vagina was smashing the bank up. Despite these flurries of violence, while it was happening, the reporters were still keen to get across how peaceful the majority of the demonstration was. Having said that, they still didn't really broadcast those speeches Tony Benn was so keen on. They got mentioned in split screen, but that was about it. Compare that with the scene a few days later where speeches from Jade Goody's funeral ceremony were broadcast at length.
You made me feel so special and soothed away my fears.
But then she's famous, what are you going to do? Anyway, as far as the protests went, throughout the day, the news did a fair job of contrasting the ugly bits with the more pleasant bits, especially from the Sky Boat, where it was completely tranquil.
There's been very little to show that there's even been a demonstration here. If Richie just points up at the building, you can see that there's the Smash Capitalism banner that's been up there all day. But apart from that, absolutely nothing else.
By the evening bulletins, however, something had changed.
The events of the day had to be compressed, which meant even as the voiceover pointed out the majority of the protesters were peaceful.
Meanwhile, in the city, one branch of RBS takes the brunt of what are mainly peaceful protests.
These sensational pictures left a different impression.
And of course, Shouty McHeadwound Man got a thorough airing.
His confrontational moment in the spotlight was repeated again and again and again.
Why, he was an overnight sensation.
Already he's appearing on T-shirts, being profiled in glossy upbeat celebrity magazines, and hey, everyone's doing the Shouty McHeadwound dance!
This seems to be the ringleader at the moment, very keen to get to the front, get to the front. There's a young man quite clearly goading the police there.
The gal is bleeding quite heavily from his head as well.
I'm very keen to get to the front.
Obviously, dynamic images like these are going to drown out the voice of the peaceful majority every time, confirming the prejudice of many observers in the process.
That's certainly what happened across the pond, where on fair and balanced Fox News, turtle-faced unfunny man Bill O'Reilly shared his opinion of the protesters.
Authorities estimate about 4,000 loons are roaming around London right now. Some of them trying to cause trouble as President Obama and other world leaders are trying to right the economy.
Shouty McHeadwound Man!
From what we've seen, there are basically three groups of loons. Anti-capitalists who want universal communism, environmental extremists who have a litany of complaints, and anti-war folks who want to give peace a chance while bin Laden and his crew cut off people's heads.
The next day, a huge protest at the Excel Centre itself turned out to be a damp squib. But never mind, because the papers were full of predictable headlines and images of the previous day's violence.
And buried away within, a few reports on what looked like, in news terms, a small story. It got a few scant mentions, usually alongside talk of brave police medics doing their job under difficult conditions. And here was the irony. At a public event granted absolute saturation coverage with all the press photographers, live feed images, skycopters, preposterous skyboats and all, the news had missed perhaps the most important image of the day.
In the end, it took some old-fashioned investigative reporting and a member of the public to bring this image to the nation's attention. Disturbing footage of a man being pushed over by the police. Shortly afterwards, he died of a heart attack.
In capturing this, the member of the public, ironically a New York fund manager, was technically breaking a law introduced on February the 16th, making it illegal to photograph the police. And so was the civilian who took this charming snap, appearing to show a police medic in action. Maybe the baton's full of medicine.
On top of that, just before this episode went to air, new alarming mobile phone footage came to light from the following day, appearing to show a policeman striking a female protester. In summary, this varied assembly of concerned citizens, some earnest, some violent, some daft, failed to get its voice heard with much coherence, and in the end the story became not about capitalism or climate change, but the succession of ugly images. The G20 demos didn't just inspire the news, they've also inspired a short little poem from our verse correspondent Tim Key.
Right, so this is a poem about the protests on April the 1st, you know, when everyone went down and it all kicked off a bit in the city. Petal got some metal and smashed a window. Anil threw his flannel. He's a Hindu. I suppose it's about the everyone was doing it, you know, everyone just went down there. Hindus, Christians, skinheads, black, yellow, pink, grey, blue, everyone get down there, and as long as you hate the police and banks, you're away.
Music! And an exciting technical leap forward for everyone.
How would you like to see your favourite band play live right there in your living room?
Oh, imagine it, the Beatles, the Sex Pistols playing live in my living room. Oh, please tell me that dream's a little bit nearer today.
That dream is a little bit nearer today.
Yeah!
After Keane played the world's first 3D webcast.
Oh shit, I hate this f***ing world.
Yes, Keane, no one's favourite theatre-middling ploddy indie shit-spreaders, rocked the internet mildly with a gig that brought their two-dimensional music kicking and screaming into the three-dimensional realm. And you can see here just how exciting it was.
Wow, it's like the disappointment is happening right in front of my face.
Well, that's all we've got time for this evening. Go away.
Next tonight on BBC4, Hugh Dennis is Marcus Brigstock's willing victim in another episode of I've Never Seen Star Wars. And he's got some particularly trying challenges in store. Roadkill, anyone? Well, rather Hugh than me.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.